All right, let me open us with prayer, because that's how we open everything. One infinite, ever-present divinity, spirit, consciousness, cause. It is all that is present in, through, and as each one here, as me, as the technology, as the recording, as everyone watching whenever they watch. One infinite everything. And so I simply surrender this time to that expressing exactly as it chooses to express. Letting go of any preconceived notions, I simply open myself as a channel, as a hollow bone to be informed. And so I let go, I let it be, and I celebrate that it is done. And so it is. So welcome to week 3 of 5. Week 1 was we begin by finishing. Then we went to identifying our what. And this morning we're going to wrestle with engaging with life. How we become informed about the where, the when, and the how, which leads us to our doing. Right? And a lot of it will look like this. See if I can actually do this. Look familiar? Looks like anybody else's path in life? Now, if I had thought ahead, I would have made this a lot more complex but just imagine, right? You clear everything away, right? Everything that you're aware of. Because, newsflash, there's always more. Because consciousness is infinite, right? Consciousness is eternal. Here's the good news and the bad news, but it's something we have to be aware of to really exist in awareness. If thought is the activity of consciousness, is an awareness of consciousness, is an intention of consciousness, and consciousness itself is eternal. Getting the logic already? Every thought that has ever been thunk is eternal. Right? Well, and here's the thing. It's not just about what you think. Notice I didn't say you, I said thought. Every thought that has ever been thunk in the history of thinking is eternally alive in consciousness and available. Why is that important to know? Because sometimes, you're just like minding your own business, and all of a sudden, these completely, where did you come from, thoughts come out of the blue? Are you figuring out where the blue is yet? It is consciousness itself. And sometimes thought just does a drive-by. It's not your thought, it's not my thought, it's just a thought. And Parmenides might have thought it. We don't know. Because it doesn't come with a name tag. Because it doesn't matter who thunk it. What matters is that, are you going to choose to latch onto it? All right? Because this is the thing that we do a lot with thought that we don't want, which is silly when we really understand how it works, is we focus on that thought thinking that if I focus on it long enough and tell it to go away, I will eliminate that thought. Good luck. Right? Because here's the thing. How does law work? Thought is received in the activity of creation and made manifest. Law, soul, activity, whatever you want to call it, has no personality. It is simply a mechanical function of creation. It just receives it and makes it happen. It doesn't filter. You're trying to get rid of this. It just says, wow, there's a lot of energy on that thought. Boom! And so it gives you a lot of that thought. It doesn't filter that you want it gone. It just filters you're attending to it. WTF, where's the focus? Right? Where's the focus? Stop focusing on things you don't want. Right? What do you want instead? Right? So, how does that relate to engaging with life? You cleared away. You've identified your what. Right? So then, how do we become aware of how life is unfolding, the when, the where, and the how? How have you become aware of those things in the past? Or have you? Or have you decided it has to happen this way, it has to happen here, and it has to happen on this timeline? Right? That's what most of us do, if we're telling the truth. I invite you to throw out the control panel. I have a meeting every morning with my CSO. Right? You can call yours whatever you want. This is my chief spiritual officer. Right? And I literally sit down with my notebook and I talk out loud as if there is a person there. I talk about what I have in mind. I talk about letting go, and then I ask my CSO, what's mine to do today? Okay? Now, occasionally, I get very specific things. And sometimes I just get silence. Right? So we each get to interpret that however we interpret it. Okay? I can interpret it as do nothing, or I can interpret it as be silent. I tend to interpret it as do nothing because if I'm telling the truth, I can't imagine going through a day being silent. I talk for a living. It's like, what? Now, there are days when it was intended to be silent. And what happens is when I'm exercising my communication, no matter who I'm in communication with, no matter how I'm communicating, it's bumpy, it's awkward, it isn't working. Then I know, oh, you meant be silent. Okay. There's a feedback loop. Okay. So think about this for a minute, this whole CSO. If you're, and you get to change this, Okay? You get to do anything you want here. If you're really focused on finances, you might want this to be your CFO, your Chief Financial Officer. Okay? If you're looking for a relationship, you might need this to be your CRO, your Chief Relationship Officer. You get to frame it however you want, and you get to have as many of them as you want. Because really, all you're doing is talking to yourself anyway. You're talking to your divine self. It's a way for your human self to talk with our divine self. And you get to do that however works for you. What's important is that you get some system down to where you understand the difference between your human voice and your divine voice. For me, it's pretty easy. This one's all about control, tends to be fear-based, tends to have a lot of opinions. Most of them about other people. A couple of them are about me. But nearly the ones in me are really based on the opinions I have of other people. So, yeah. The divine voice is not a great conversationalist. Right? For me, if there's a lot of conversation, that's my human voice. My divine voice, pretty lasered in. Pretty lasered in. Go to work. What am I going to do there? Go to work. Right? And I think the reason that it doesn't give us the whole picture all at once is because it's all unfolding based on what we choose. Okay? So if it says go to work and I choose to go visit people in the hospital, my next nudges are going to be very different than if I come here to go to work, right? So it's, it gives me each where, when, and how as I respond to the first thing it gives me. Is this making sense? Right. In the whole example of the maze, for me, that's just the way to really picture life unfolding. Listen, I'm in a maze, and I don't know that there's actually an exit. Right? Because if everything is everywhere present, if life is all there is, where am I exiting to? Right? So I no longer think it's about getting from here to the exit. I think it's just about being in the maze and expanding the maze. And if I get to a point in the maze where it's right or left, I have some choices. I can ask for guidance. I can pick one without asking for guidance. Or I can just stand there and do nothing. That's called stuck. But it's one of the choices that's available to us. Right? Now, it might seem like I only have two choices, right or left. But there's always at least three, because I can turn around. Right? If I'm there and there's right or left, and neither of those feels accurate, maybe I missed something. And so I can start backtracking through the maze and look, listen, and feel while I'm backtracking to be in the question, did I miss something? Right? Now, I'm not talking about physically backtracking my day, although that has been helpful when I've lost something.
Go back to the other room.
Right? Or if I I come into a room and I have no earthly idea why I walked into it. Oddly enough, if I go back to where the idea started, oh, and then hopefully I'll hold on to it for 30 seconds while I get into the next room. I know y'all know. It happens. All right. So, questions so far in this process that are coming up for you. How to engage. Yeah.
So I come from a highly scientific world where we really focus, we're very precise, etc. So what I've learned was to do the where, when, and how, but then I always add or something better as sort of my, okay, well this is where I'm going, but I'm always open to something better. Does that work?
If it works for you.
Okay.
Right? So here's the thing. All of this is a choice. I used to say that this or something better until one day in this process, I said it and I felt this gut punch. And what came to my awareness was better than what? Better than what? You stand up there every Sunday and you teach that life is unfolding perfectly, so please help me understand where better is. Now, I was not happy with that. Okay? That I got informed real quickly of a how, and it was like, damn it. Because really it made me feel good. This or something better made me feel better about what had happened rather than practicing principle and leaning into the where, the when, the how as perfectly divinely guided. It was a way that I was questioning that. And, I went back through stuff from ministerial school because, just because it was my divine voice doesn't mean it's educated. But it is. But that's the arrogance that lives in me. All right? And it talks very clearly. God knows nothing about big, little, more or less, up, down, bigger, smaller. Those are human concepts that we've attached. The divine just creates, and everything is created equal, valued equally. And it's so my attempt to create a loophole so I could keep using that didn't work. And if it works for you, use it. And then if it comes a day where it doesn't work, use something else. Because what works today may not work tomorrow. We're all, awareness is a spectrum. And we don't even know what the end of the spectrum is. Because how could we in an infinite universe? There is no end, right? Yeah.
When you drew the names and said that first no exit, depression heavy.
Ah, okay.
So I need you to at least maze me out of the depression.
Okay, no, that's great. So, are you guys done with this? All right. So we're going to walk this through the process. When you heard that, what thought did you have?
So learning all of this and engaging and listening to spirit and everything should take me somewhere. Otherwise, I've been wondering my whole life, so what's different, somewhere. Somewhere there's got to be something.
Should take me somewhere.
It's like giving
Uh-huh.
has to result in something.
Oh, it does.
Then there's an exit. You don't have to be going around circles your whole life.
What if we are spiraling back, like they say in grief, you know, we go through, but then we spiral and we come around to it again, and, so maybe it's more of a spiral, but I don't know.
So, there's no exit. Does the maze still take you somewhere? Mm-hmm. But it does fulfill this. Does giving up control get you something? I mean, even if it's worry, it gets you something, right? I submit to you that the piece that's missing, that's really at the crux of it, is the concept of an exit, which means somewhere other than here. Right? And when we take away the idea that we're actually getting out of this, whatever this is, if we have framed our success, if we have framed our good outside of ourselves, we desperately need to find the exit. Right? Because if it's not in me, I gotta find where it is, which means I have to find the exit out of me. It will never work. So how about there's no exit needed? Does that feel different?
I would just like to kind of erase that word exit. There's so many words in our language that cause trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Exit is one of them.
Yes. So what would you like to replace this with?
Open maze.
Ah. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Cool. Because words matter.
Because
Right.
we've been taught to look for the emergency exits in every building.
Right.
I was thinking of physical thing, yeah, right, yes.
Yeah. And they're useful words.
Right.
Right? I mean, I was a firefighter, an EMT, and a deputy. Exit strategies matter in this human realm. There is no exit strategy in the spiritual realm necessary. Because where are we trying to go? If this is all there is, where are we trying to go? Right? So, yeah, frame it, this is good. I'm in the open maze. You could even go so far as to say, I am the open maze unfolding. Right? Yeah. Because here's the thing. Let's circle back to when you're in your meeting with your chief spiritual officer and you only get one command at a time. You only get one nudge at a time. You only get one guidance at a time.
Why?
Because the maze is unfolding as your choice. Right? There's not a pre-described, there's not, you don't come in with a maze as Carol, and a maze as Joe that's already predetermined, and your job is to figure it out. We're creating the maze as we flow through life. We are the maze. The maze is life unfolding as us. Does that work for you?
Well, that explains me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because all a maze is I go over here, and what I'm looking for isn't here, so maybe it's over here. And, oh, well, there's part of it. Where's the rest? Oh, it's over here? Okay. Right? And the turns in the maze are simply one choice at a time. The hallways in the maze are the journeys between choices. Is simply our doing, our movement. Now the maze isn't so scary, is it? Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Hey, how are you? All right.
A concrete thing that happened to me the other day, I guess a lot of people, and I do, have challenges sometimes in the car. Oh boy, these people aren't driving right, and this, that, and the other. And then I went to a counselor, and she said, what does it matter? And I went, okay, I think I'll say, what does it matter? And so I've just tried different things, and so Joe and I decided to go look at pumpkins and things like that, and I was real relaxed, so I was driving home slowly, and whenever somebody does something that I think is really kind of wacky, I do this frantic wave at them, like, hi, like I'm here, because as I'm coming up at the intersection, somebody's pulling out in front of me, completely oblivious that I'm there, in my bright red car with the lights on, and I'm waving, and the person looks in and waves back to me, gives me the peace sign, and I mouth, what are you doing? Like, do you see what you just did? But because I was in the mind frame to go slow, it was all okay, and I look into the car, and it's our friend Leslie. So it's actually someone that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, oh, and she probably thought I was waving to her. I was like frantically thinking, but so I've been doing that lately. When someone does the cutoff or whatever, I wave at them like, oh, hi, it was my turn here in the intersection. Or if I get to an intersection, I wave somebody, and then they do that wave to you. But anyway, I was thinking about a concrete. In my maze, one of my challenges is driving that car.
Well, and that's actually a pretty profound example of where's the focus,
Where's the focus?
all right? And how we get more of what we don't want when we focus unconsciously on what we don't want. Because here, and again, so part of this gets translated through my cop brain and my EMT brain. Your basic concern started out as people aren't paying attention. And everything you describe that you're doing takes their attention away from driving to you. And so now they're paying even less attention to driving.
Yeah, they're all waving back, all the people.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Right.
so you're creating, right, because I didn't want to flip them off. I didn't want to scream at them. Well, I did want to. So I was trying to have a new.
So the options are to give you the one finger salute and inform you that you're number one,
Right. I didn't want to do that.
or to scream at you.
I didn't want to do that.
So what are some other options?
Maybe just smile and go on by.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What if I just pay attention to what I'm doing,
Right.
which will help me notice what you're not doing?
Right, because I was going slowly, and so
Right.
when they did it, there wasn't a crash.
So now we've avoided the accident, and I can simply land in gratitude. Or I can create a hallway of judgment and condemnation, take your inventory and write a whole story about you.
All right. Basic story.
Right? Oh, I can write a very complex story. At that point, there is nothing basic about it. Right? It starts with the basic story of your behavior, and then I embellish it into a full-blown documentary about who you are as a human being and where you're going in life.
And how short your life is.
And if I stay there long enough, I will determine where you're going in death. Even though I don't believe in hell, I suddenly recall it just so you can go.
No, this helps me, because you need the concrete in the world, because I was like, wonder why this is happening, and now that we've talked about
Right.
it. Oh, okay, because I was thinking, maybe the wave would be like, I was thinking wake up was
Yeah,
the wave. But,
because that's what you're thinking.
but it could be a distraction.
Who knows what they're thinking? They're like, who's that crazy lady waving at me?
And then it turned out we were friends.
Right? Because that assumption that people know why we're doing what we're doing. Now, if you ever need a comedy routine, there it is. There it is. To really take ownership of all of the thoughts you have and how you assume that everybody knows what your intention is and where you're going with all that. And then actually ask them, when I said this or did this, what did you hear? What did you think? They won't even be in the same hemisphere most of the time, right? Because you're over there going, I'm kindly telling you, you need to wake up so you don't kill me. Thank you for paying attention to driving, although now, because I want you to get this, you're not paying attention to your driving, but it's still your fault.
Yeah, that's good. Right, but I couldn't see that yet.
No.
No, I wasn't there yet.
No. And here's the thing. If you're paying attention,
I went
doesn't really matter what they do. Doesn't. And it gives you an opportunity to check your thoughts, to check your judgments, to check your opinions. WTF, where's the focus? Right? And it doesn't make anybody bad or wrong. It just makes you being a human being here on planet Earth. And you get to choose. Right? Because no matter what divine nudges we get, the how, the where, the when is always a choice. There is nothing in your divine self that is going to make you do anything. It is going to invite you. Where, when, how are invitations. They are not mandates. Because the thing that we all have that is the only way I can, we talk about science and logic. The only way I can see that an infinite being can expand itself is by giving its creation the power to create and then letting go of how it does it. Because if it had any agenda, it's not expanding itself. It's replicating itself. We are empowered to create freely without guilt or shame. That's grace. You get to unfold the maze however you want. You get to take turns wherever you want. You get to create hallways wherever you want them to go. You get to paint the hallways. You get to install lights or turn them all off and wander around in the dark. It's all up to you. The problem is most of us think somebody else put us in the maze and somebody else has the map and they're sitting at the exit, kicked back in their beach chair with a Corona laughing at us. Right? There's hidden cameras in the maze. You know they're in there, and they're watching you. We made it up.
I think there's a better word than maze, and I don't know what it is, but I think that maze is another trigger. Because
So for you, maze is a trigger.
for me, maze is a trigger, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, a maze is a stressful situation where I don't know where the next step is going to be, and I'm right?
What about labyrinth?
Labyrinth might be better.
Just another word for it. Yeah. So pick whatever word works for you. Because what you described is exactly how life unfolds. I don't necessarily know what the next step is until I take this one. It's the desire to know our next 3 turns down the road. That's our humanness. That's our humanness. Because if everything is predicated on this choice, I can't possibly know. Okay? The idea of having control is where our discomfort is. Because identifying our what and then letting go of every element of control for the where, the when, and the how. That's the scary part in this human realm. Because we're all taught that our safety, right, our human safety is based in this. And it's not true. It's not true.
But it's also really scary, I think, because when we make a choice,
Mhm.
we don't know, only the universe knows what goes along with that choice.
Exactly. So for those of you watching the recording, what she said was, it's scary because when we make a choice, we don't know what the outcome of that choice is going to be. Ernest Holmes said in one of his writings that when we create a demonstration, we must accept all that comes with it. And we don't know what that is. We don't know. Right? When I took this job on August 1st, 2018, I did not know March 20th, 2020 was coming. I didn't know that. Right? If I did, I may have chosen a different job. I may have chosen a different profession. I may have. Because I would have told myself, run. Run now, run fast, run away. Without any thought of what I was running to. You know, I watch old episodes of Friends at night trying to fall asleep. And if you remember that episode of Phoebe and Rachel when they were jogging, long story short, Rachel's doing the, really athletic jog. And she quit jogging with Phoebe because Phoebe ran like a crazy person. When Phoebe ran, she was just like... And she said that she ran that way because it was fun. Right? Because it was like when you were a little kid and you were running so fast, it felt like your legs were going to fly off your body. And you didn't care who was watching. What if we dove into our spirituality that way? That we trusted that we are so supported, that life literally is unfolding as us, that life can never be against itself, so it can't be against us because we are itself, right? Then we can just create with the assurance that all is well. And we can listen with the assurance that we are being divinely guided. And the hard part, that divine voice and my human voice have never, in 62 years on this planet, I have never experienced a moment where they agreed. Never.
Thank you for sharing.
Right? My human, and honest to God, the more education I get, the dumber I become. It feels like in the spiritual realm. Right? I have 2 masters, and when everything's hitting the fan, it doesn't help. I can figure out. I have a master's, I have an MBA with a special concentration in org psych and development. I know how to create a strategic plan. I know how to coach you to follow it. And what I absolutely cannot do is predict the outcome of it. I can make up an outcome that I think it's likely to lead to, but I can't predict that. And here's why. We don't live in a vacuum. Okay? So, your where, your when, your how involves a lot of other players. Right? You're going to buy a house. There's a lot of players involved in that. Not to mention planet Earth. Not to mention termites. They have a choice. They may be choosing to eat the house you want to buy. Right? There's a lot of things that we don't necessarily see. The most powerful story I've personally experienced around this stuff, Deborah used to, when we lived out in Rio Neto, up in Sonoma County, Deborah used to work at St. Helena Hospital in St. Helena, right? She had to come down Mark West Springs Road going back and forth. She called one day, because she always called to let me know when she was heading home, just so if time got away and she couldn't contact me, I'd have some idea where the heck she might be. And I got this, do not come home. She's like, excuse me? I'm like, don't come home. Why? I don't know. But every cell in my body was screaming, do not come home. Now, it was during the winter, raining cats and dogs, right? She knows how to drive in the rain. She got good tires. I said, you do whatever you're going to do. I can't choose for you, but I'm telling you, everything inside of me says, do not come home. So she chose to spend the night there. Not a big deal. It used to be a teaching hospital. They have rooms you could rent for $25, so she just stayed there. Later that day, and when we did the math, the timing of when she would have left, she would have been on Mark West Springs Road at the exact time that there was a huge mudslide. And it would have taken her over a 500-foot embankment. Do you really need to know why? Sometimes we do, and, we'll figure it out. I mean, had she chosen to come home, whatever happened was going to happen, But I'm just saying, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes this divine nudge that we get from our chief spiritual officer, and that's where, we're going to talk about this next week, building our faith muscle. But if I never take the risk, I can't possibly build any faith. Right? Faith is the substance. Now, I want you to get this. The substance of things not seen. What is a substance? I mean, how would you define substance? Massive energy. What something is made out of. Right? You're not having faith in an outcome. You're having faith in the substance. What things are made out of. Faith is about, we start with understanding what it is, and then we have the faith in something we call God or whatever you call it, and ultimately to having the faith of it. Of it. To where and it takes practice, okay? This whole being in the unfolding, right? Whether we call it life, whether we call it a maze, whether we call it a labyrinth, whether we call it a spiral, doesn't matter. How awake, how surrendered are you willing to be to truly experience a magnificence that is available that you can't even imagine? Because that's where our power and control here is a limitation. It's a limitation. Because where, in your humanness now, where's the when, where, and how coming from? What's generating those? Well, that's what's motivating it. What I'm asking is, when you're coming up with the how, the when, and the where are those ideas coming from in the human realm?
The mind,
The brain,
the brain, not the mind. but
right?
the brain.
They're coming from your brain, right? What does your brain have available to it to draw from?
Tiny subset of the world.
Right?
Fear, worry,
Does the brain have that?
If you let it be.
Hmm. So what is the brain? I'm just talking the organ. What does the brain do?
it talks to the neurons in my body
Mhm.
and all the processes, the breathing and the heart.
Tells your body what to do, right? In terms of thoughts, what thoughts does the brain have?
So, so
So many,
many that it's overwhelming.
right? But where do they come from? This is important. Now we're getting there.
The past.
Experience the past. So if you're establishing your journey from your brain, all you're doing is revising the past, because that's all that's available in your brain.
So that's why you're on replay.
That's why, no matter, you ever had one, okay, and this is I'm not even going to ask you to identify, because we all know it's us, right? It's all of us. Those relationships where no matter who is in the relationship with you, all of a sudden it's the same freaking relationship. Right? Changing the player doesn't change that you're creating from the past. Right? And for most of us, this is just a funny aside. Most people write down what they want in a relationship, and when you really read it, they want a puppy.
Or even less work, a cat.
They don't want a relationship, they want a pet. Right? And most of us, when we're in that place, our best bet in kindness to the animal realm is to just get a goldfish. And then make up stories about how happy it is to see us when we come home. But we gotta it doesn't mean we hate our brain. It means we understand how it functions. And then we check it out with the chief spiritual officer. Yeah.
Why is the period before you engage and take an action, why is it so uncomfortable? I mean, it can go on for years in total discomfort. Is that because you're trying to control everything?
It's how deeply is your identity of safety rooted in your ability to control.
Say it again.
It is predicated on how deeply your belief is that your ability to control your environment, the people in it, how deeply is your safety attached to that. So those of us that grew up in delightfully dysfunctional, violent homes, that's really hard, right? It's harder Yeah, I'm going to say this because I know it's recorded and I really don't care what people think because it's true. It is harder for women to establish their sense of safety on planet Earth than it is for men. Because men have been taught they're safe. Men have been taught male superiority, that their word matters most. And so they have an ingrained sense of safety that women don't have because women have been taught to be subservient to that. Right? It's getting better, but it's still a thing. Right? And, depending on where you are in that paradigm, people have been taught different things. Right? And yes, there are exceptions to everything. Men who were abused have a more difficult time than men who weren't. That's just, okay. So we know that. So we pay attention to, wow, what is so triggering here? Why do I feel so unsafe? Releasing control. And here's the all we're doing is releasing the idea of control. We really don't have it anyway. But we think we do. And so our sense of safety is based in an idea that we made up, we being humanity. It's kind of like that old thing in the South. If you're camping or hunting and you come upon a bear, you do not have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun your buddy. And tripping is permissible. How are you defining your safety? And what does safety even mean? And that's a whole workshop in and of itself. I'll make myself a note and I'll plan it because this coming year, my intention is to set up something after service every Sunday. Whether it is a potluck or a creative experience or a workshop, something so that we have continued ongoing engagement. So, but yes, safety. And here's even beyond safety, once we get beyond that, part of your question goes to our identity. If my identity, right, if especially in the whole family tree stuff, if you are that child that is the one that the parents brag on all the time, right? If you're in that role in the family, well, then your identity is based in control. Right? It's that place where if it's up to be, it's meant, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I have to do it. People expect me to be great. People expect me to do this. My parents expect this. And when we've been raised with that, well, letting go of that challenges our very identity. Versus the scapegoat. We've been conditioned to be free. Because you have no expectations of us in the first place other than to be a royal screw-up, right? So it depends on where, So there's lots of reasons why it's uncomfortable. And the degree of discomfort gives you information about what's operating in your hidden beliefs. Okay? Then you go back to week 1, and you use those tools to excavate another layer. If when you get to this place where, okay, I'm going to practice meeting with my divine self, whether it's my chief financial officer, whether it's my chief spiritual officer, whoever it is. Call it Mr. Magoo, call it Mrs. Magoo, call it, doesn't matter, right? But to just begin to play with it, have that morning meeting, and when all of a sudden things come up, lean in instead of pulling back. Lean in instead of pulling back. You're already in a meeting with your chief spiritual officer. Ask for information. What is this discomfort telling me? And then just write.
My question is, why do we have to go through all this crap?
Well, we don't. We don't. Here's the thing. Some of us don't. Some of us can just go, oh, let go of control? No problem. And they just dive right into it. Others of us have some different conditioning. We have chosen to latch on to different things. Right? So if you can do it without any of this, have at it. Have at it. Just know that if something is showing up, it is not in alignment with what you thought you chose, there's something in the way. There's something in the way. Right? We're all a product of unconscious habits and conditions. And law is responding to each and every one of those all the time. So we don't have to, but we can choose to. Personally, I love this stuff now. I stopped seeing it as work a long time ago. I invite you to play with this phrase. Right? Just as simply as we chose the word, different words for the maze. Most of us use that phrase a lot, right? Here's an alternative. You will rarely hear this come out of my mouth anymore. I get to. We have a thing in the South, I ain't better gotta do nothing. I don't have to. And you really don't. There are laws on the books that say if you go 55 miles per hour in a 35 mile an hour zone, these are the consequences if you get caught. But there's no law that says you have to go 35. You can choose to go 55. You don't have to. You get to. And if you choose to go 55, you get to get a ticket. And you get to experience the consequences. You get to. But this talk about a sense of helplessness. There is no power and control or choice in this statement. This says something outside of me is dictating and mandating my life. I have to. Really? No, you don't. Anybody familiar with Viktor Frankl? Holocaust survivor. Right? He proved the difference between here and here. In a concentration camp, he lived, I don't have to do anything. He took ownership that everything was his choice. Another way is, which I find really powerful. First, I have to entertain the idea that I get to, and then stand in your power. I choose to. Even if you're doing the thing you've told yourself you have to do, try saying it differently. See how it feels different in your body. Because you can say, I have to get my driver's license renewed. And then you can say, I choose to renew my driver's license. This one is power. If you're looking for power, there it is. Own your choices. Even the things that you see as the most mundane doesn't really matter. We're building new habits, right? Build the habit of owning your choice. You're at Baskin Robbins. You got 32 choices. Is it 31? 32? I don't know. They keep throwing new ones in, so sometimes it's 34. I'm like, y'all lied. Okay. When you order, I invite you to say, I choose. When you're ordering out to eat, practice it. I choose to have. And have fun with it. Because the other people can be like, what do you say? Right? Because it's a powerful word. And it will get people's attention. But practice every place you can. I choose. I choose. I choose. I choose. This is the victim consciousness eliminator. Right? You cannot use I choose and have a victim consciousness at the same time. It's like being in a dark room with the light on. You can't do it. Right? So it can be as simple as this. Right? If you're not finding stuff that you need to unravel and you just want to ramp it up, just go through a day. I choose. I choose to get up. I choose to have coffee. I choose to start my car. I choose to put it in drive. I choose to do my taxes. Yeah. Whatever it is, just play with it. Have fun with it. And see how your energy changes. See how your energy shifts. You will be amazed. You know, because like by the end of the day, like, I'll choose anything I want. Ha! Because you get it just by practicing it. Now, it does not work to choose for other people, so just let that go. Let me just pop that balloon right now. You cannot successfully go through life. I choose this politician to be honest. Nope. You get to choose about you. You do not get to choose for someone else. You don't. I'm going to wrap up with this. You want to know how powerful this word is? Tell me one law in the legislation of all of humanity that is not some form of legislating choice. Right, no, but what I'm saying is every law on our books, every one of them, there is not one law that exists that is not designed to control choice. That's how powerful it is. Our entire legal system is built around this word. That's how much power you have. Use it, for crying out loud. Okay? To not use this word is like to buy the best car on the market, right? The most amazing mechanical comfort, economic, the best everything all in one vehicle. And you bring it home and you put it in your driveway and you hang up the keys and you stare at it and gripe about not going anywhere. If you don't use it, it just sits in your driveway. Right? It's still there, but you got to use it. You get to use it. You don't gotta. You get to. You get to. All right, let me close this out. I'll stick around if you have questions. And so what I know is that the infinite has informed its creation, its divine self expressed in human form, of its magnificence, individualized as each and every one. Informed us of the power that is us, as us. Has invited us to simply delight in playing with it, to own it, to cherish it, to use it, however we choose. And so I celebrate, and I let it go, and I let it be, and I step into a week of consciously being aware that I choose. And so it is. Yeah.
Some profound stuff, Brad.
Right.
Before we break, when you were saying about your choice of coming to work with us and be our minister, had you known about 2020, you might have run. I thought about when 2020 happened, and Carol can attest to this, when you had that class for free every day, and I think you attended every single one, I attended as much as I could, I can't choose a better word than saved. It saved me. I was going through the cancer, I was going through the COVID, and that connection brought me right back to community, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, gang. You can just leave the table and everything down, so.